Hi YouTubers, welcome back to another episode of Malcontent Corner, the corner where I hope to share with you the various things that I've learned in the course of my daily walk of life. As the title to this video series says, this episode is about the washers, or the windshield washer nozzles on my wife's 2001 Mercury Cougar. She came to me about a month and a half ago saying, "Hey honey, I think we're out of washer fluid." I go to hit the button and nothing's coming out. So I took a look at the reservoir. Seemed to be enough fluid in there, at least enough to where I should be able to get some fluid out. In hitting the button itself, or the switch I should say, I could hear the motor running, but there was very little, if anything, coming out of the washer nozzles with regards to the front windshield. If anything, I would get like a little split of fluid out of either one of the nozzles, but that was it. It wasn't even a weak stream. It was just, like I said, literally just a little boop, and that was it. There was nothing coming out of the rear washer nozzle at all. So anyways, coming up next is what I found, what the problem was, and I'm gonna warn you, I'm pretty filthy in it because I was doing some work underneath the car, changing the oil, doing some other odds and ends, so I'm pretty grubby looking. But regardless, I'll show you what I did to effect a repair on it. Coming up next. Alright guys, here we are under the hood of the car. There's an engine, there's a hood, there's your passenger side nozzle and your driver's side nozzle. Now I disconnected this hose here and ran the washer just on the really off chance that there was a blockage somewhere here. As I expected, it spit and spattered, but nothing really came out. So I know the problem's further towards the tank and the motor itself. Now if you follow this, it'll run down, runs underneath all this stuff. But if you look in your car, you might see something like this, and you have one nozzle hose and two nozzle hose. Now it threw me at first because I was like, wait a minute, why is there two nozzle hoses here? Well, the reason why there is because one nozzle hose feeds the front nozzles and one hose feeds the rear nozzle. Pretty brilliant. But it was like, okay, so I know for sure now that the problem is lower with the motor, or something to do with the motor. So under the car I go, and I will show you what to do next. Alright guys, so just so you know, if your car is anything remotely to stock, underneath the front valance you have this plastic shielding here. It's not hard to remove. This is a total car that I rebuilt, but just so you know, there's the screws here. Pulled one out. That's 10 millimeter. Should be one here. It's missing. One there. Another one here. There might be some back there. I gotta look. But just be aware that this may be under here. Obviously, it's in the way of the reservoir. So this has got to come down before I can get to it. It's not hard, but it just does, just to make you aware of it. So anyways, on to the rest of the work. Alright guys, I'm under the car finally. Yay! Here is what the pump looks like. Now this is on the passenger side. Now you got to watch it. I'm sorry for the shaky camera work. I'm laying on the ground. I got to watch it because there's a little flare of sun that keeps coming through and washing me out there. So anyways, here's one elbow for one tube. Here's the elbow for the other tube. There's a rubber grommet here. Now I pulled these off and ran the pump and nothing came out. It spit down here. So that lets me know that the problem is before these. So it's either here, in here. So I got to pull this out and see what's going on. There's just a rubber grommet here. But the main thing you got to watch out for is there's this bracket here that's part of the car. And the barb, I suspect I can work it around and get it out. There's enough room. From what I was kind of fussing with it earlier, I can twist it and get it out. But the main problem, I'm going to try to show you here, is right above my finger, right there, is a kick out in the reservoir.
And what it does is it holds in the top half of the pump. It's not a screw-in, it's just a press fit. So the bottom half will come out, but the top half is kind of pinched in there. So I got to find a way to kick the top half out to pull this whole thing out. I'll probably get a screwdriver in back here and just pop it. You know, these are just usually press fits. It's really not, it's not necessarily hard to get them out, but it's just there's not enough room in here for me to get my sausage fingers in there. So anyways, I'm going to do that, and we'll see what comes from it. Okay? Back in a bit.
All right, guys, unfortunately there's not enough room for me to work under there and film at the same time. If I had a garage with a lift, I could do that. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't, so I can't. So I've got to do it the old school way of laying on the ground. Now, as you saw in what I was able to film under there, you have the bottom of the pump and it's into this grommet. Then you have the top of the pump that's actually held in by a minor kick out in the reservoir to kind of hold in the top half of the pump. This holds in the bottom half. Now, I was able to pull out the bottom half to some degree, but the top half kick out kept me from pulling the pump out completely. So what I ended up doing was going in with a long straight blade screwdriver, just working it behind the top of the pump and pushing it out. The pump removed with no problem. Now, you want to be careful, especially if you're dealing with an older, very well-worn reservoir. The plastic can get old and kind of brittle on there, so you want to be careful. You don't want to go in there jamming this in there. You just want to work it in and just, again, putting some pressure on the top of the pump to release it from that top kick out. Now, once I did that, I expected all kinds of fluid to be pouring out. And I actually got a little plastic reservoir here to capture it, because I, silly me, filled it up thinking maybe it was low on fluid when my wife complained that it wasn't working. Very little came out. In fact, it just dribbled out. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. So what I did was I went through this edge. Now there's a grommet. This is that grommet. And if you look here, this is what it looks like. Let's see if I can get to, oh, there you go. You can see there's a little mesh in there. Now I went in through this way. It probably wasn't the smartest move of me, but I went in through this way. Unfortunately, I poked a hole in it. And I, okay, pulled it out. Still nothing came out. Just a little dribble. And I'm like, what the hell? So I worked the screwdriver in through the edge of the grommet and collapsed it down between the edge of the grommet and the reservoir, and I got fluid out. Now I started capturing that fluid, and as it was pouring out and I finally filled up my little reservoir, I took a look in there, and I don't know how well you can see it here, but it is just filled with all kinds of crap. Oh, there you go. There's a big old chunk right there of debris in there. This was clean when I went to capture this fluid. So all the debris in there, it looks like algae, was actually from the tank itself. Now, I'm like, okay, well, I gotta empty the tank. Obviously nothing's coming out of this. So I go to pull this by putting this in there and prying it out. Well, wonder of wonders, this popped into the tank. So, yay. So that's a warning to you. If you're gonna pull this out, if I had to do this over again, I would probably use a set of needle nose pliers to go in through the edge and hold it. Barring that, I would probably use a set of needle nose pliers so I could hold this and then go in through the side with this and pop it out. Because if this goes into the tank and you don't have the right tools, you're probably going to be hard pressed to get this out. At the bottom there, I mean, the diameter of this is only about the size of my finger, so you're not going to feed it out that way. Now, I am fortunate enough because I have one of these little grabber thingies here, you know, where you push it down and you got the little prongs that pop out the bottom. So I was able to go through the top of the tank and grab it and fish it out. If this happens to you and you don't happen to have this tool, you might be able to get something long and maybe put a dollop of grease on there or wax. So like for example, I have a old toilet ring that you use to, you know, seal the toilets to the flange. There's the wax on that's kind of sticky, so I can put some on a screwdriver every once in a while if something gets in there where I can't get it, and the grease or the wax will kind of hold onto it. Obviously you don't want to fill this tank up with grease and wax and all kinds of crap, so I'm just saying it's better if you hold on to this while prying it out. I was able to fish it out easily using this tool right here, so just be aware of that. Now, once I pulled it out, I found that this little mesh, once again that you see, was completely covered with slime. So what I suspect is just all the filth and dirt and debris filled up on the bottom here. Now this fluid, I had hopes of reusing it. I'm not going to. It's not worth it. It's filthy, it's dirty, there's obviously crap in there. So I'm gonna pour this out. The tank itself, with the grommet out of there, I've cleaned this up now, so now it'll probably flow. I've run some fresh water through the tank just to wash out the debris. So I'm gonna put it all back together now, and let's see how it works now that things aren't plugged up. So sit tight, I'll be back here in a few minutes. All right guys, here's gonna be the acid test. Does it work? Whoa, it is done raining. Yes it is. Job well done. She's working again. All right guys, there you have it. That was it. As I showed you in the video, the washers are working now, including the rear one. I didn't film that, but front and rear washers are working. Everything looks really good. So it seems as though the debris in the reservoir tank had just basically clogged up the input screen. What that stuff was, I have no idea. Like I said, I ran clean water through the reservoir just to drain it all out, whatever it was. But once I put it all back together, off to the races I went. So anyways, if you have a problem with this, with your washer nozzles, you may want to look into this repair. It might help you out. So that's what I have for you today at Malcontent Corner. As always, I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and to watch my videos. I hope to see you back again here soon in the not too distant future. But until that time, do take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you again later. All right? Toodles!